Yeah.
So you attack it
You
to
attack
learn.
it.
Not just sort of lash out in frustration.
And I'm telling all the audience, it's not easy, come what may.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 5 of Manarchy. It's a pleasure to be here and to have with me Wilson and Chris. Welcome. And we're going to be talking about some hard-hitting topics today. And it should be interesting to get all our perspectives together and see where we can get with this and probably have some actionable points at the end of it. So let's start with hard-hitting point number 1, adversity. Wilson, tell me.
Common factor.
What's your definition of adversity? Let's learn that first.
It's a common word these days, isn't it? If things are not going well in your life, you say adversity. Look, in simple layman definition terms, anything which has got adverse effect or impedes your progress is adversity. Plain and simple.
Fair enough.
When you walk and when you're facing adversity, you're facing a mountain. You've got two choices. Either you climb or either you drill. It all depends upon your mental ability, what you want to do. When adversity hits you, you cannot escape it. It's better to face it when it's small, knock it off. Because the more you try and circumvent around it, you will face bigger and bigger mountains in your life. And that will be difficult to kill. Now, later on, we'll go and delve deep into details, whatever it is. But in layman's term, whatever impedes your progress is adversity.
Fair enough. I mean that's a proper textbook definition of it, right? Chris, what's your take on? Because I believe everyone's definition of adversity is slightly different, right? Depending on the context of what they face.
Sure, and experience of it also. I think adversity is very contextual. So it depends on the circumstances, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, however it shows up. It's first of all, it's inevitable, right? None of us can avoid adversity in at any stage of our life. Maybe when we're children and we're kind of looked after by our parents and we're small, we're kind of wrapped in cotton wool and we're protected from adversity. But as you grow into adulthood, it's just a natural part of life that you just have to, like Wilson says, you have to figure out how to not circumvent those issues, how to deal with them, head on. And for me, adversity is just, like I say, something that's standing in the way of you and whatever it is that you would like to achieve. Or it can be, say, for example, for some people, it might be a loss, a personal loss, maybe somebody passing, something like that, maybe a loss in terms of their employment, for example. And how do you rise to the challenge? If you lose your job, if you've made redundant or whatever it is, for example, how are you going to rise to that challenge? How are you going to, not wilt and think, oh God, why me? How are you going to actually say, okay, well, yeah, this is, life has thrown me this curveball. What am I going to do with it? How about you? What's your definition of adversity?
It's interesting to think about this because as you were speaking, I noticed a pattern, and then what my answer is going to be is going to fit into that pattern, but in a different way. You mentioned adversity in a negative but uplifting form, right? Something that's going to be very difficult. It impedes you. It's it potential has a destructive characteristic to it. But then you have to drill through it. You have to climb over it or something. So there is a positive twist. So it's an 80-20. You were more neutral. You were 50-50, right? I mean, it could be a loss, and then you move past it. I looked at it from a purely positive perspective. I see adversity as anything that is allowing you to change for the positive. Doesn't matter if it's a destruction, if it's anything that stands in your way that helps you to grow. Because whether it's a negative or a positive adverse situation, even a positive adverse situation, people shoot themselves in the foot by avoiding them, not knowing that challenge as they cross it will help them grow and become a better, stronger, harder person.
That's very positive. That's absolute positive thinking.
Job loss, right? I mean, a job loss might open up 10 other opportunities for you. So it's that opportunity cost thing that we talk about.
That is what you kind of think, isn't it?
Yeah.
But for others, job loss means it's the end of the world.
It's the end of the world.
Now, for example, and they keep on trying and trying and trying. Look, adversity will never go away from you easily.
Of course not.
You have to fight through it. And that is why it is called adversity. If there are minor things which are happening in your life, you would say, okay, I can go talk to someone, change that particular situation. But adversity is something which will stick onto you for a very, very long time.
Correct, because it actually has lasting effects on you.
Lasting effects.
Right. Positive or negative otherwise, but it helps you grow past it, right?
Exactly.
But then that brings me to a question that I feel is very interesting, right? If I was to ask you, you faced enough adverse situations, I'm sure we all have, but what's that first feeling you get when you face an adverse situation?
See, for me, it was when a particular, I'll tell you what happened. I used to do a bit of kickboxing, and MMAs and all this stuff. I damaged my back. I was literally like this in my x-rays. So I used to walk tilted, actually. I went to the doctor. He said, Wilson, this is it. Henceforth, no gymming. You can't even lift anything from the ground.
Wow.
You will be paralyzed. These are the exact words. I looked at him. I came home, so much of antibiotics, Can you imagine that? I mean, I'm so used to going to the gym. I like lifting weights, I like doing something.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything. All of a sudden, it stops.
That's a textbook definition of adversity, right?
Adversity.
There, right? Yeah.
And I came back struggling. I came home. I looked up to heaven and I said, this is not what I was created for. I am born to fight.
See, that's that.
Yeah.
You took adversity as a challenge from point one.
But then I was depressed for a moment. And I had to change it quick for my own good. Imagine me lying, dumping in antibiotics all the time, not able to do anything. Yeah. And then.
Well, then that first point of yours is not depression. In all honesty, I feel that was just that there is a little bit of a shock that happens in the beginning. You can say it's a depressing feeling. It's not depression because you're not spiraling downwards.
And there is always a calm before the storm.
Right.
That's maybe what it was for you.
Yeah. And then I went into a very aggressive mode. Listen, adversity is something which I know my friends have faced is either you're here, either you're there. Nothing in between. You can't hang in between. You have to face it head on. And our podcast, one of the pillars is your mental strength.
Yeah. Correct.
Is your mental ability
Right.
to come out of that situation.
Right.
It could be lingering, but you need to hang on to it. And I'm telling all the audience, it's not easy, come what may. It's very, very difficult. But you need to stand firm because I always believe whatever comes in your life, it passes away.
Sure.
No, everything.
Nothing stays for
Time
long.
is the greatest healer, right?
But then it depends how you're able to handle that particular situation.
Agreed.
It could be anything, job loss, relationships, loss of your family, whatever it is. It's all about your mental breakdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you curtail that mental breakdown, how do you come out of it?
Correct.
That is up to that individual. You will call 10 friends. You will go to a doctor. You will go visiting every possible. I'm depressed, and come out of it. Trust me. You will have a lot of these things on YouTube and everything. You need to do this, step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. All right, follow this. You will come out of it. No. It is your own personal mental ability,
Absolutely.
how you want to come out of it.
That's very, very well said, actually. But Chris, what do you feel? What do you feel first when you have, let's say, an insurmountable adverse situation that you're facing, right? Something that's life-altering, maybe.
Good question. If I think about times in the past where I've had a life-changing situation, I think the first emotion is pretty raw. It's pretty. You feel it in the gut, and I think that's a pretty normal thing for a lot of guys to feel things firstly in the gut more than anywhere else. But I've always been a massive advocate for how you process something once you get that initial feeling, So, maybe in my youth, in my younger years when I wasn't so grey, I might have had a very outward, visceral reaction to something,
like a physical expression.
Yeah, exactly. And that just sort of lash out in frustration. But I think we all mellow as we age in that sort of way. But I think that mellowing is really maturity. you know, and so you learn through your maturity how to cope with, you know, okay, fine, this thing has happened, but what now? What's next? You know, how am I going to deal with this thing? How am I going to process it? I think learning how to process things when it comes to adverse things in your life is such an important life skill. No matter how big or small, you know, and everybody's processing mechanisms are different. Some people are they learn skills, and other people are just more naturally gifted at dealing with things. You know, you'll always meet people who are super positive all the time, and you just sort of think, how can you be so happy all the time? You know, don't bad things ever happen to you.
I know people who almost court hardship or adversity because the challenge of going past it is the high, not the actual growth they're going to get out of it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So, what about you? What's your initial feeling when it comes to adversity?
I look at, honestly, the very first feeling initially used to be, again, a visceral reaction. Why me? A lot of the times that's just like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Right? What did I do to deserve this? Now, when I was obviously looking at 10 years or 12 years ago or 15 years ago, far younger, the first reaction was just like, oh, curses, you know, like, here I am again at the receiving end of things. And then, of course, that passes because like every emotion, it has a lifespan to it. It has a half-life to it. It just kind of like dissipates. And then you're just like, fine, I'm going to deal with it. So there was a little disdainful movement towards resolution or getting past the adversity, right? But over time, mellowing out, as you said, or maturity or whatever you want to say, over the years, it's gone into that mode of like, there is maybe instead of the huge emotional spike, there's a little bit of a bump.
Yes.
Right? Which will just be like, didn't see this coming. This sucks.
Yeah.
But I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you tell yourself repeatedly enough that I'll deal with it reinforces within you. It's the equivalent of lie to yourself long enough and you'll start believing the truth.
Yes. Exactly.
Or fake it till you make it, as they say it, right? Yeah. So that's what it was. It's like, I now I look at it and I'm just like, I'll deal with it. And then inevitably, as that little hump that I had created of that emotional expression, which is becoming lesser and lesser with age, of course, I'm now at a point where I actually end up dealing with it.
Yeah.
And then in hindsight, you look back and you do that little weird introspection and be like, that really wasn't that bad. And sometimes the thing that I feel we don't talk about enough is oftentimes inaction is an action in and of itself.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right? Adversity sits in front of you and you're like, maybe I can challenge and attack this up front, but maybe this just requires some time.
Yeah.
Maybe if I wait, I'm just giving a random time, like 1 hour or 1 day or something. And it just kind of becomes from that huge problem to that smaller problem because it was a function of your perception.
Or it could be the old paralysis by analysis, you know? So you're kind of, you know that you've got something in front of you to deal with, but you're overthinking every avenue so much that you end up doing nothing anyway. You know, so that old meme of just sort of the guy laying head down in the sofa because he's got so much to do, but he can't decide where to start.
This is the thing. It's a function of perception, right? So if I'm perceiving it to be a mountain in front of me, as you said,
exactly,
but turns out it's a hill.
Yes.
My perception makes it look like a mountain. So maybe I need time to just process that into realizing it's a hill.
It depends. As you rightly said, what your perception is, but till you approach it, you wouldn't know.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you attack it
you attack
to learn.
It. Exactly. Now, for example, job loss we're talking about. You're in a high position in a particular company, you lose your job. Now you have got your family with you, you've got responsibilities, school fees, all these things are taking over and you have started applying. You're not getting any offers. Whatever offers you're getting is way below what you used to get. You know what? Accept the fact that you are in an adverse situation. Take that offer.
Of course.
Start rebuilding.
Rebuilding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the problem because then, your ego kicks in. Why should I report to you? Why should I, come lower on wages, whatever it is?
Correct.
Don't crib about it.
Yes.
Because maybe that is where you build yourself into something greater than what you were before.
And also ego without any bargaining chips is absolutely useless.
Exactly.
That's very well said, actually, to be honest.
This is the point. Like you can't, when you're in that position, sometimes, the old saying, beggars can't be choosers.
Yes.
But like you're saying, you are rebuilding and you're, okay, this is where I am now. but this doesn't necessarily mean where you're going to be forever.
Exactly.
I look at it like a game of Uno.
Yeah.
Like these are the cards I'm dealt, right? I mean, most of my cards are useless, single numbers and no special cards whatsoever. So I mean, I have to play with what I have and not let my ego get in the way and start bluffing across the board, because bluffing works up to a certain point.
Absolutely.
So
Exactly.
You're right.
It's like a game of cricket. We all know cricket, right?
Yep.
The bowler keeps on bowling it. I mean, you can't hit every ball.
No.
Yeah.
So at times you defend. You wait for that right moment to attack.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And when that moment comes, you go blazing. And that is what adversity is all about.
Yeah.
You see, what happens is when the panic button kicks into your mental brain, you are not able to think. And that's when you start depending on others to help you out.
Projection, maybe to some extent, right?
Rather than you yourself can lift yourself out from that situation.
Yeah, that requires a lot of mental fortitude. Yeah.
Exactly. Because look, it's not easy. It's not easy. People could say anything to you, but it's not easy. Because adversity is something which will never be short. It is prolonged.
Yeah.
Some days you will wake up, this is a day I'm going to make it. Come evening, nothing happens. You're back to zero again.
That's
Very,
about
very,
having a plan.
very well said.
You
well,
understand?
Yeah.
You're zero again. Next week, you wake up a bit depressed. Shit, I tried yesterday. I failed. You see, you have to break through. Be at it, but it's difficult.
That's interesting to say, because that's. I mean, wrapping this up, I wanted to ask you, what would be that one line takeaway you would give to the audience about adversity and how to manage it, how to process it, if you were to just give some wisdom.
Some wisdom. Okay, now this is what I did. It's up to you all. Stay in the moment, one day at a time. Don't think too far ahead. If you want help, please go ahead. Ask for help. But remember, there will be few who will be actually helping you, and few of them will be actually taking advantage of you. And they will call it as help. And the moment you come out of it, and if they really helped you, my personal experience again, they will keep on reminding you, remember, you are in that deep shit. I helped you.
Right.
I brought you out of it. It is me. It is because of me you are what you are.
So you got to be very careful
So
about
very careful about
exactly.
it. So my advice is live the moment, hold on to it, and have an aura of suspicion about you.
Fair enough. Cautious approach.
Just be cautious.
Makes sense.
Know whom to ask, because remember, there are repercussions in everything. Don't allow it to come back and bite you.
Fair enough. That's very, very good advice. Chris, what about you? Takeaway.
Look, my takeaway: surround yourself with good people. Know that in the moment, it's very hard to see the wood through the trees. Nothing lasts forever, and as I always say, it might not be your fault, but it is your problem. As Wilson said, like some accepting outside help. It's okay to accept help, but understand that the problem is yours to solve.
Right.
Ultimately, at the end, and yeah, that's my takeaway.
That's wonderful. I see the greatest learning that I've had about facing adverse situations has been take some time. The idea is a lot of the times we just get in the heat of the moment, in the heat of passion. When you're facing it, you're just like, let me just take out the sword and let me battle this. Whether that's coming from a place of insecurity or ego, or I just want to power through this, masculine energy, whatever the hell we want to call it. I feel like give yourself in that moment, it could be a minute, it could be an hour, it could be a day, and just be like, let me just wait for the emotions to subside so that clarity steps in. And then assess the situation to understand and draw what the problem actually is. Maybe the problem's way smaller. Maybe the problem's way larger. So then the approach becomes very different. So it could be a David and Goliath situation where you're taking a sword against a monster, or it could be an ant and you're taking a sword against an ant and you're wasting all that energy. Exactly. Right? So maybe just getting clarity is what I feel it's just reframing the problem.
Perfect.
Right? So,
Perfect. Absolutely.
Great conclusion.
Well, so wonderful talking to you guys about this topic. I feel it's tremendously beneficial for us even as men to know a lot about how to manage adversity. It speaks a lot to our character in how we manage it and how we process it, even how we define it. So it's been a wonderful conversation, both with Chris and Wilson, as well as myself in the mix. And looking forward to the next episode. Stay tuned in, guys.